When we say something is right, is it an opinion or a truth? And this is the question about dharma. Right? Dharma is that which is right. And when it's an opinion, then there can be differences. But when we have a system in place, then there's reasoning for why something is considered right. So we saw last week that the yajna being done by Janmani Jaya to eradicate all snakes, the reasoning is anything inspired by hate and vengeance will lead to more hate and more vengeance, and it perpetuates a cycle of destruction. And each person feels wrong, and the action we do continues to make another person feel wrong. So for me to feel a sense of justice, I am now making somebody else feel wrong. But to come to a point where if I feel I have been wronged, to not continue that feeling within myself and within anybody else. Then this is elevating our thoughts and outgrowing not necessarily, we call it a desire, but it can be even a very basic desire that is so natural to all of us, right? Wanting justice is something that's so natural to all of us. Wanting our parents to be praised is so natural. Wanting not to be rejected is so natural. Wanting not to be insulted, so natural. And so we might say that these are very normal human desires, wants, needs. We would even go as far as to say it's a need. And then the understanding that even though it's something that's so ingrained, we can outgrow it, or rather transcend it. We can lift ourselves out of wanting praise, wanting justice, wanting to be accepted. And it's a difficult journey, but that's what makes us as human beings so incredibly special, that we can transcend and uplift ourselves out of something that we would consider to be so normal, so inbuilt, so natural. This is really evolution of spirit. Just as we see physiological evolution, what we want is this spiritual evolution. So we saw that Ganga and this king met each other in the heavens. They were immediately besotted. They were cursed, and so she came back down to earth. He was reborn as a king, Shantanu, and they once again fell in love. So before she came down to earth, and this is very much the Mahabharata, there's a story in the story in the story. So Ganga falls in love, they meet, her dupatta flies away, the whole hamagama happens, and then she's been cursed to come down to earth. But she has to wait for him to be born and grow to the appropriate age. In the meantime, in the heavens, these 7 Vasus means they were the devatas in charge of wind, right? Vasus? I think. Anyway, they were devatas in the heavens. They had been cursed to come down on earth as well. They also did some masti. I can go into each story, it's not important, but basically there was a rishi and he had a cow and they wanted to steal the cow, and then the rishi got annoyed with them, and so they also all got cursed. So these Vasus come to Ganga and said, you've been cursed, we've been cursed, you understand our pain, so we can't really help you, but you can help us. When you go down and you are born on earth, we will come as your sons. We really don't want to live on earth. Earth is very smelly, very yucky. So the minute we born, please kill us. So the curse is fulfilled. We were born. We took a human birth, but let us not have to live as humans. If you think about heavenly beings, then human is a downgrade, right? They didn't want to be living as we did. Well, although you can evolve as humans, so it's not really a downgrade, but whatever, each one has their opinion and perspective. So Ganga thought, I can understand, and she agrees. And that is why she drowned each of her babies as they were born. But this was the eighth child that she was carrying to the river. And Shantanu said, what are you doing? And he was horrified that this eighth child was also going to be killed. And she could have still killed him. Like, he stopped her, but technically speaking, even if he stopped her, she could still do what she wanted to do. But she says, because you stopped me, maybe this one was meant to live. And he was the ringleader of the eight that did the masti with the rishi. And so his karma was he couldn't escape the curse. The other seven were just like, chamchas. So they escaped the curse, but he didn't get to escape the curse. And so Ganga said, will live and I will educate him in the heavens and send him back to you as a very fit king. So off she goes. And Shantanu is left on earth, pining over Ganga. And so he would take many walks along the river, remembering her, missing her, very sad. And this went on for years and years and years and years and years until 16 years passed. And once again, while he was walking on Gangaji, she appears. And he's so thrilled that she's come back. But she's only come back to deliver their son, whose name is Devavrata, but he gets called Bhishma. And then, so to avoid confusion, I will call him Bhishma from now itself. Okay, but his name wasn't originally Bhishma, it was Devavrata. And he had learned from Brihaspati, the scriptures, and from all the different devatas and rishis. And so he was incredibly well educated, incredibly well trained, beautifully disciplined, strong, physically appealing to look at. He pretty much ticked all the boxes and was a very fit and worthy king for Hastinapur. So she left Devavrata with Shantanu, and she goes back up to the heavens because she's been freed from the curse. She was cursed that she'd have to come down to break his heart. She successfully did her job and returned. Does she feel no remorse? This is an interesting thing about the Mahabharata. And I've actually often pondered, was it just a cultural thing that people accepted at their time? Stronger minds? Like, why don't we have the same incredible sense of acceptance? In the Mahabharata, all the characters, there's just this, well, this is the way it has to be, so this is the way it has to be. He has to live out this curse. I've finished mine. I go back to living as the river Ganga, and he'll go back to whatever it is he needs to do. There's incredible sense of acceptance and also a sense of detachment, which is really beautiful. And in today's world, maybe we don't understand it in the same way. Maybe it can be seen as cold, but it's not cold. It's a sense of we are all pieces of puzzles put where we need to be. That's the sense with which, when you read the story of the Mahabharata, and just about every character has this, not just Ganga. Yeah, but when even Bhishma has this feeling as he lives his incredibly long life. Um, and then there are people who they don't have this sense of acceptance of how it is, like we'll see with Karna's character, not at all able to accept. And then the agitation that it creates in his mind and the ripple effect of that agitation in all that he does. Okay, so Shantanu, let's do story bit really quickly. Shantanu was now very happy that he had his son Devavrata. They lived, and when nothing significant happens, like sometimes 12, 16, 17, 20 years goes by in the Mahabharata and it's 2 lines. They lived happily because you have to wait for the next event to happen. Inshallah, everyday stuff would have happened for 12 years. And then once again, he went somewhere and he had to cross a river. Shantanu should stay away from rivers. And on the river, he had smelled this fragrance and it intoxicated him. And so he tries to figure out where the fragrance is coming from. And it's coming from a woman called Satyavati. Why is she so fragrant? We will come to. For now, we'll just go forward in Shantanu's story. So he falls in love. He goes straight to the father, asks for her hand in marriage. He says no. Who says no? The father says no, because you already have a son and he'll already be the king. So, what purpose does my daughter have being your wife? So he's very sad and he goes back home. And he's obviously not very good at holding his feelings in, because Bhishma immediately notices that he's moping around, all this kind of sighing and all this kind of when you love lost, all that behavior, staring into space, not listening to conversation. Bhishma thought, what's going on here? So he asked the chariot driver, which is another interesting thing that's still applicable in the world today. If you really want to know the true story, ask the staff. The chariot driver says everything to him. That, there was this girl, she was on the river, the father said this, he was so sad, he came back, but of course he won't tell anything to you because you're the reason that he can't have her. And so Bhishma does the only thing a son would, who would want to honor and see his father happy. He goes to Satyavati's father and says, give her hand in marriage to my father. And the problem is me? Okay, fine. And he takes a vow that he will never be the king. His father is a very intelligent man, a fisherman, but very intelligent. And he says, you may not contest for the throne, but your kids will contest with my grandkids. This happens all the time in families everywhere. Power, money, there's all this fighting over it's rightfully mine. And actually, it happens. This is the reason of the Mahabharata war. The fishermen already knew. The Mahabharata war happens because Duryodhana feels his father should have been the rightful king, and the kingdom should have been his, but the kingdom wasn't his. It was Pandu's, and it was given to Yudhishthira. And so Duryodhana and Yudhishthira pretty much are the reason for the Mahabharata war. And this fisherman, he's not having any of that. Little did he know. It was going to happen no matter how much he tried to avoid it. So Bhishma then vows, he says, no. Bhishma then vows never to have children. So the not being king bit was okay. Actually not. In terms of dharma, him not being king is not okay. But the not having children is considered to be a humongous sacrifice. Actually, what he vows is a life of celibacy. So then there can't be children. Like you can't even have an accident. And that's what is considered to be such an incredible sacrifice. So when I first heard the Mahabharata, I'm like, really? That's such a sacrifice? Okay, why isn't my name changed? It's like, it changed twice. And then the gods showered him with flowers and called him Bhishma because he took this horrendous vow It's not so bad, really. And so now, why is it that Bhishma shouldn't have given up the throne? Anyway, Shantanu didn't know, to be fair to Shantanu. All this happens without Shantanu knowing. Bhishma turns up to the palace with Satyavati and says, yeah, to his dad. And, they get happily married. But Shantanu always feels very sad that Bhishma had to make the sacrifice. And even though it's not written explicitly, Satyavati, I think, too, feels quite sad that Bhishma had to make the sacrifice, especially the way life pans out. Maybe she wasn't sad at that moment, but then the way things turn out, she was definitely would have had moments where she had regretted that. And it was her father, or maybe it was her, but anyway, it all happened. And again, we'll go fast in the story. They live quite a few years together, and then Shantanu dies. And while they are together, they have two sons, Chitraganda and Vichitravir. Chitraganda was meant to be the king and would have been a good king. But he had the same name as some Gandharva. And Chitraganda started getting popular. And so the Gandharva heard this of him because they had the same name. He didn't like it. And he came down and he challenged him. So Gandharva Chitraganda challenged Prince Chitraganda to a duel, saying, two of us can't exist having the same name. You should change your name. This Chitraganda was like, why should I change my name? So very proud, very arrogant, very rash. But considering he was pretty young male, it's normal, arrogant, rash. It's that age also, right? So he says, I'll meet your challenge. And so they have this horrible duel where he dies because Gandharvas are going to be more powerful. Not that he was a bad warrior. He was actually pretty good, but Gandharvas have so much more power. So now Vichitravir was the king. He was an okay guy, as per the scripture of the Mahabharata. Nothing too dynamic. Chitraganda was the dynamic person, in terms of king, in terms of leader, in terms of mobilizing forces, generating revenue, planning, strategizing, creating resources. Not his thing. And so Bhishma ended up ruling. So Bhishma ruled when Shantanu died, while these two kids were really small until they got to the right age. Chitraganda literally becomes king for like 3 months and he's killed. So Bhishma has to rule again. Then Vichitravir's is made king, but it's not him. It's not his thing. So then Bhishma had to rule again. So Bhishma ended up ruling. So this is why I said Mahabharata has very interesting thing about destiny. Like Bhishma wasn't killed. Actually, Ganga could have killed him. He wasn't killed. And she said he was destined to be the king. So he was groomed to be the king. He renounced being the king, but he ruled. He rules for 3 generations. So, because Vichitravir is about to die. But so before that, very important thing happens before Vichitravir is about to die. And then the next generation still has to grow up. So he rules while they were young. He rules while the next generation was young, and he ruled in the interim when there was nobody there. So he rules for a very, very long time, fulfilling all those, all the education that he had to be the king, all the qualities that we have to be the king. And so the idea here of when we come back to this question of why shouldn't he have renounced the throne, we have a Swadharma. And so that's why I was saying Vichitravir, it wasn't his thing. Swadharma means our nature. Yeah? So some people have that, that they have that zest in them, and they have enthusiasm, and they have that, wanting to accomplish and wanting to do, and so bubbling with ideas. Some people are incredibly sincere, incredibly talented, incredibly hardworking, but they don't have any ideas. So this person who's bubbling with ideas tells this person who's very hardworking the idea, and then they do it. This person bubbling with idea might not ever actually do anything, just comes up with lots of ideas. And so we all have our place in the way that things work. Now, even in a family, you'll notice one person's the calming influence in the family. One person's the noise in the family. Like when they home, the house is noisy. When they leave even for 1 week, you're like, why is the house so quiet? What happened here? One person is like the mediator in the family. One person's the one holding everyone together. Like, you, this birthday, we should celebrate. We should go here. We should do this. We should meet here. Everyone take out their calendars, write this in. Even in a family, you'll see all these different types of roles, right? And it will just come very naturally to the person to be that particular temperament. So Swadharma. We come with a particular Swadharma for this lifetime to fulfill the work or roles or responsibilities that Swadharma is advantageous to. Does that make sense? Great. So if I come with the Swadharma of dancer, then that's the thing I'm meant to use this life. And it's even called Swadharma. It's my nature. It's the thing I'm meant to be living. Bhishma Swadharma was ruler. And so shouldn't give up our Swadharma. And then if you think in terms of royalty, he's born of the river Ganga. Like if you think of genetic pool, yeah, and even King Shantanu, like those genes should be kept alive. Like that, the intelligence, the talent, the resilience, the nobility, that needs to be passed down. Okay? We want that to continue. And so from that point of view, he shouldn't have given up the throne. So why did he? From his point of view, he made a sacrifice to make his father happy. We can all understand this, right? All of us, we'd praise it. But this is the interesting thing about Mahabharata. It's not sentiments that decides whether something is right or wrong. It's reasoning. So father has already lived X amount of years. Father has already ruled. Father has already had relationship experienced. It's okay. It's okay if he's a little bit lost, is the reasoning. But we tend not to look at reasoning. We tend to look at sentiment. And it's fine. It's fine that we look at sentiment. And we might choose to act in accordance to sentiment, as Bhishma did, who was very learned. And when we make that choice, it should, with the important thing is we understand the reasoning and we understand what we are sacrificing. It shouldn't, I'm trying not to use the word should, it's so hard not to use the word should. Ideally, we avoid emotional decisions. So When we make a decision out of sentiment, it's an emotional decision. Ideally, Bhishma should have seen the scenario, gone back and discussed with his father. But we can totally understand. He wants to do this for his father. And also this fisherman really irritated Bhishma. Like, how dare you? Like, why are you so demanding? Can't you understand that your daughter will have a good life, way better life as a queen than she would as a fisherwoman? Let her come to the palace. Let her have a happy life. Why do you have to be so demanding? And they're like, okay, fine. They're like, there were emotions there. There were definitely, it was a sentimental decision. And we don't tend to make good decisions, but and you could have made the same decision if he had gone back, sat with his father, discussed back and forth pros. Okay, never mind, we still make it, but you've done it with a clear head and you're willing to face the consequences. I'm not sure Bhishma was willing to face the consequences. When we see the way the Mahabharata pans out, he faces them beautifully, but there's this, his heart becomes heavier and heavier and heavier the longer he lives. He lives very long. So his father gives him a boon for making that sacrifice. And this is an important point, that his boon is he will die only when he chooses to die. A lot of people try to kill Bhishma. And it's a good thing he has this boon, because he can't die until he chooses to die. Okay, so dharma, what is right? What is right is not I feel, but this is a good thing and so it's right. Right? So sacrificing for our parents, it's a good thing, so it's right. There has to be more reasoning than that. And in this case, it's because it's not just my parents. The parents here happen to be kings, ramifications on the kingdom. Bhishma having the right nature to be king was good for the entire kingdom. And the way destiny played out in his life is he did rule. But that's not the vow. The vow is that he wouldn't rule. And if that had actually happened, it would have been such an incredible waste of his talent, his intelligence, his dynamism, his skill sets, his energy, his abilities, his all of it. Unfortunately, it doesn't get wasted. So this is also another interesting thing about Swadharma. It will come out. Somewhere, it will come out. It really can't be suppressed or eradicated. It will in some way feature. Okay, so Bhishma gives up the throne. Shantanu gets married to Satyavati. They live quite happily. They have 2 kids. Shantanu dies. The first son dies. The second son now is the king and should get married so that the lineage can continue. And then we come across this interesting incident of Amba. So very quickly, like I said, Vichitravir, he just didn't have the same gusto. And so he didn't go out, although he was highly romantic, so he probably would have been able to find a queen for himself, but he didn't himself get invited to any of the Swayambars. Then Bhishma thought, what? This is an insult to Hastinapur and the entire dynasty of, what was their name? What was their name? Kurus. So there was one Swayambar and there was 3 princesses and they were reputed to be very beautiful. And so he said, fine, I'll take them all. So he goes to the Swayambar. And this is where cultural norms change from time to time. In those days, Thank God it has changed. It was considered an acceptable way to take a bride was by force. You just take her. And if somebody disagrees, they challenge you and you fight, and whoever wins, wins her. This is not the scripture saying this is the way to do things. This was a age-appropriate social norm. Yeah. It was in the West, it was in the East. We've been evolving in terms of the gender equality, everything equality. Okay, so he decides, well, because a Swayamvar means the princess chooses the prince. Nobody's going to choose him because he's a known celibate and much older than them. And Vichitraveer wasn't invited. So, for him, he kind of thought, what avenue or path do I take? We need the brides for Vichitraveer. He wasn't invited. They're not going to choose me. The option I'm left with is take them with force, which was an acceptable option at that time. In today's time, it's not acceptable option, but in those times, it was an acceptable option. So that's the course he took. He took all three of them. One of the kings challenged him. They got into a duel. Bhishma won. The 6 pages is the description of the fight. This Mahabharata really likes describing fights. He comes back to the palace and Amba finally opens her mouth and says, actually, I'm in love with King Shalya, of Kashi. And literally, Bhishma says, why didn't you say something? It's like, you tell me now, like you should have said something then when I was fighting him. Because he fought for her. He was the one that challenged Bhishma. So he loved her, he wanted her, he challenged Bhishma. She didn't say anything. She was in the chariot. She watched the fight. She watched Bhishma win and Shaila lose. And so now she's saying she's in love with him. And so Bhishma consults with all the Brahmanas. It's not like he makes a decision on his own. And he says, this is what's happened. What do we do? All the Brahmanas says, Vichitraveer shouldn't marry her because her heart belongs to someone else. Let her go back to the one she wants to be with. She goes back to him, Shaila. He says, I won't take you because Bhishma won. So this is like charity now, and I look really bad. I lost you, and so it's too embarrassing. It's a disgrace for me now to accept you. Who would you be angry at if you were Amba? This is the interesting thing about this story. Who would you be angry at? Everyone? No. I'm angry at Shaila. It's like, you're going to let your pride win over our love and a happy life together? Yeah. Right. Already, yeah, you can be angry with Bhishma. Fair if you're angry with Bhishma. But interestingly, she has no anger for Shaila. Only anger for Bhishma. Furious. Like, and then if you want to learn holding a grudge, Amba's the person to study. She holds a grudge. Wow. Okay, so let's do the story of how she holds this grudge. She refuses to return back to her father's house. She refuses to go back to Hastinapur. She refuses to stay with Kashi. She goes into the forest and she starts doing tapas. She does enough tapas for the rishis to notice her, and she tells the rishis what she wants is Bhishma dead. The rishis think, ooh, this is a hard ask. But, they're all feeling really bad for her because she's doing so much tapas, and they heard the story of how he took her away, and then she was in love, but he didn't ask her, and then da-da-da-da-da-da. Nobody ever said, why doesn't Shaila just marry you? These rishis also. But then Parshuram comes, and they said the only person that can make Bhishma change or do what you say is Parshuram, because Parshuram is one of Bhishma's gurus. Remember, Bhishma had many gurus. Parshuram was the one that taught Bhishma warfare because he was quite a warrior. And so Parshuram, sensible guy, he looks at Amba and he says, which one do you want? Do you want Bhishma? I'll make Bhishma marry you. Do you want Shaila? I'll make Shaila marry you. Like, this is like done deal. I'll get them to marry you. Who would you choose at this point? You're in love with Shaila, right? She says, I don't want either. I want Bhishma dead. Remember I said holding on to grudge? You got to learn from Amba. She's been given a choice where she can now marry Shaila. Parshuram is guaranteeing it. No. Do you want to marry Bhishma? No. What do you want? Him dead. And of all the people in the world to choose to want dead, she chooses Bhishma. Remember his boon? He can't be killed. She knows he has this boon, that he can't be killed. She's still determined to kill him. It's like being determined to make the sun black. It can't be done, but she will not budge from holding this grudge against him. Parshuram gets convinced by Amba's sadness, and she even says to him, I am consumed with vengeance. You have to love their honesty also. I'm consumed with vengeance, and all I want is Bhishma dead. And so Parshuram says, well, I can't actually do this for you because I've taken a vow only to serve Brahmanas. So all the rishis in the forest ask him, please help her. So not one Brahmana, so many Brahmanas ask him. So now he's like, now what? So he goes and he tells Bhishma, marry her. And Bhishma says, you speaking out of sentiment. Why would you tell me to do this? It's very clear that her heart belongs to someone else. Why would you ask me to marry someone who's in love with someone else? This makes no sense. And he says, I'm your guru, marry her. He's like, you're my guru, but you're not making sense. I won't do it. Please note. And so he says, I'm your guru and you're not listening to me? I'm going to kill you. Of course, I'm adding little, they use much more sophisticated language than I'm using. I'm getting to the gist of it very close. And Bhishma's reply is awesome. You can try, but I will show you. You think you've destroyed Kshatriyas? You are not going to be able to destroy this Kshatriya. You have not met a Kshatriya like me. In fact, you will end and not me. This is like, wow. This is why Mahabharata gets used by all movie writers for inspiration, because the dialogue is phenomenal. But he also says, it is not a dharma that I'm not listening to you. We follow our guru because they make more sense than we do. But you're not making sense. You are acting out of sentiment. Bhishma himself acted out of sentiment, so he knows very well what it is to act out of sentiment. And the main reason is he won't break his vow. And he even says, As my guru, you can't ask me to break my vow. So just a side note here, Parshuram was his guru of warfare. Brihaspati was his guru in terms of scriptures. So he's not going to listen to Parshuram on scriptural matters. Yeah. But a teacher is a teacher in due respect. And he does give due respect, because when they do start the battle, the first thing he does is he goes down to, he gets off his chariot, he goes over to Parshuram and he bows down. And again, you have to love the dialogue. He says, please bless me to win. And Parshuram's reply is awesome. You have behaved nobly. I am very proud of you. I can't bless you to win because you're fighting me. But do your best. I loved it. I love reading this part of the Mahabharata. Anyway, the fight goes on for very long. Parshuram can't kill Bhishma very simply because Bhishma can't be killed. Bhishma can't kill Parshuram very simply because he's an avatar. So you can imagine how long this fight goes on for. Then these 8 Vasus, who were Bhishma supposed to be brothers, but they escaped because Ganga drowned them, come to Bhishma one night after they have been fighting for 28 days and gives him a special weapon that even Parshuram cannot nullify. The next morning, when Bhishma puts this weapon on his bow and is about to shoot that arrow, all the gods appear in the sky. Narad Muni appears in person. Narad Muni has this siddhi of being able to go anywhere at any time, teletransport. And it's very cool because suddenly Bhishma opens his eyes and Narad Muni is standing in front of him. And Narad Muni says, you cannot shoot this weapon. The entire earth will be destroyed. But he had been told the night before by the Vasus to shoot the weapon. So he looks up at the heavens and they're all smiling and they say, listen to Narad Muni, right? So when it comes to people like Narad Muni, we just listen. Parshuram doesn't see, I don't know why, because he's an avatar, he should have been able to see everything. He doesn't seem to see all the devatas in the sky. He sees Narad Muni, but he doesn't see all, and he thinks Bhishma is going to actually release this weapon. And so he says, you win. I accept defeat, because he also knows that this weapon would destroy the earth. And then he looks over at Amba and says, I really try. And Amba says, yes, I could see, but it's not going to work. And so she said, this is Amba's strength. If you stick to what you want, but first figure out what you want is good. Then you learn from Amba. She didn't choose a good thing to stick to, but wow, she stuck to it. So Parshuram, who's an avatar, please, I repeat this, he's an avatar, means form of God on earth, cannot kill Bhishma. What does Amba say? I'll figure out a way. I will kill him. And up she goes again into the tapas in the forest. She does incredible tapas. If you see the tapas that she does, again, it's something like 6 pages. It's like Parvati ji's tapas, when Parvati ji was doing tapas for Lord Shiva. But Parvati ji got Shiva. Amba did all this tapas to kill Bhishma. So while doing the tapas, she gets this garland. And Rishi says, whoever puts this garland around them, they will have the strength to kill Bhishma. She goes to every king in the country, campaigning, that I'll give you the garland and you've got a guarantee you'll be able to conquer Bhishma, you'll be able to have Hastinapur. No king accepts it because every king likes Bhishma. This again should tell you something. Every king in India likes Bhishma. Nobody wanted to kill him. Nobody wanted to mess with him, even though they guaranteed the kingdom of Hastinapur. And so she's at the Drupada's court, and she gets so annoyed and she throws the garland in the air, and the garland falls on this pillar. And Drupada puts 4 guards around it, 24/7, so that nobody touches that guard. Because she had done tapas, and whoever wears it is going to get into trouble with Bhishma. She continues doing her tapas. She gets a vision of Lord Shiva. So she does tapas to Shivji on somebody's advice. Lord Shiva manifests and she says, I want to kill Bhishma. Lord Shiva is very sweet. He didn't even hear the full statement. He doesn't. He just says tatastu. Anybody is asking anything before they finish, only his tatastu. So she's saying, I want to kill Bhishma, tatastu. So he has blessed that now she will kill Bhishma. And then he realizes, oh. He can't be killed. So he thinks, okay, never mind. You die. We'll make you born again. And in your next life, you'll be able to kill Bhishma. And she said, no, I want to kill Bhishma. Next life, I won't remember anything. It won't do. Okay. You can remember everything. Her resolve to kill Bhishma spans over lifetimes. She's willing to die. She's willing to be born again. She's willing to remember this life just so that she can kill Bhishma. So let's just finish the story because, we should end it. It goes on for far too long because Bhishma lives something like 800 years. In 800 years, her only desire and her only thought is, I want to kill Bhishma. No enjoying sunsets, no listening to birds, no chilling, having a cup of chai. Obsessed with, I want to kill Bhishma. Because he wronged me. Shaila wronged her. He got away scot-free. And then, she could have forgiven him and still lived a beautiful life. She could have done so many other things. She could have done tapas for happiness, joy, intelligence, creativity. She could have done tapas for love. No. And when you read her tapas, she fasted for a whole year, ate 1 leaf, fasted for another whole year. And when they say these things in the Mahabharata, it's not exaggeration. They actually did this kind of tapas. She would control her breath. I don't know if you've done pranayamas. When you control your breath, after a certain point, it gets quite difficult. Your head gets quite light if you hold it for too long. She would hold her breath for days to get mastery. Like in the amount of effort that she put in, what she could have accomplished. But what did she accomplish? Okay, so she was born again. She was born again as a woman. It was necessary that she was born again as a woman. Why? Because Bhishma, on principle, will not fight women. So why was she born again as a woman? Wait. She was born to King Drupada after many, many years. Draupadi's already been born, the Pandavas already exist, everyone already happens. She is born as Drupada's daughter. She goes into the hall where the garland is, she puts the garland on herself. Drupada is so stressed that what have you done? Why have you taken this garland? Why have you put it on yourself? And she says, don't worry about it, Dad. I've got it covered. She goes back into the forest. She does tapas. Why is she doing tapas again? To become a boy. Your first sex change operation was Mahabharata. From a girl, she becomes a boy, because only men in those days would fight in battles. Mahabharata war was declared. Pandava's side needed people. She joined the Pandava side. Why? Well, one, her father, Draupadi is her sister, Drishtadyumna is her brother. They were all on the Pandava side. But the main reason she joined the Pandava side was Bhishma was on the Kaurava side. Bhishma cannot be killed. The war would never end until Bhishma was killed. So one evening, the 5 Pandavas, along with Krishna, go to Bhishma, all of them crying, weeping. It's such an incredible scene in the Mahabharata. And Bhishma's smiling. He's beaming from ear to ear. And he says, so you've come to ask me how to kill me. And they all weeping. They can't talk. They're weeping that much. Yes, that's why we've come. And how to look at you when that's why we've come. The only person that can kill you is you. And the only person that knows how to kill you is you. And so how to kill you, we need to know. And Bhishma is a little bit cheeky. And he says, if Krishna fights, I'll happily die. But at that point, Krishna had taken a vow not to fight. And he would have. There was a moment in the Mahabharata when Krishna raises his, well, it's a wheel, but it becomes Sudarshan Chakra in his hand. And Bhishma puts down all his weapons and says, I will choose this moment, Krishna, if you throw that at me. And so it was true. He really would have died if Krishna picked up a weapon. He was happy to die if Krishna was standing in front of him. And in fact, at the end, that's when he did die. He waited for Krishna to come and stand in front of him. So for all his sad life, he had some amazing moments, Bhishma. So he tells the Pandavas, the only other person I won't fight is Shikandi. Why? Because he was actually a woman, and I have vowed not to fight women. And I know he's a woman, even though now he's a man. Y'all know what I'm saying. Also, I know that he is Amba. And she's waited very long to kill me. Let her have her moment. In the end, how does she kill him? He allows it. She doesn't actually kill him. This is the whole, the fascinating part about Amba's story is what happens. She doesn't actually shoot anything. He is standing in front of Arjuna. Arjuna's eyes are closed, tears are pouring down his cheeks, and he is shooting. And every arrow Arjuna shoots pierces Bhishma. Not a single arrow that he shoots, Shikandi pierces Bhishma. Like not even one. His arrows are lost amongst Arjuna's thousands of arrows. Yeah. But because he's standing there, Bhishma put his weapons down and didn't block the arrows. And so all the arrows pierce Bhishma. He hasn't died. The arrows are so heavy, he falls down and he's lying on a bed of arrows, which we know. It's one of the epic scenes of the Mahabharata, Bhishma lying on the bed of arrows. Why doesn't he die? I've already told you. He will not die until Krishna is in front of him. Krishna is busy fighting Mahabharata war. Can't go and stand in front of Bhishma. So Bhishma wins. Eventually, 14th January on Uttarayana, Krishna goes and stands in front of Bhishma. Bhishma teaches Yudhishthira the Vishnu Sahasranam and then chooses to die. Did Shikandi actually kill Bhishma? He dies 3 months later. Did her arrows pierce him? 2 lifetimes she spent. She didn't get what she wanted. You know, Amba's story is amazing because we really need to think about what it is we want. What are we running after? What do we want to accomplish? Because we get so stuck on it, we're taking with us next life. Amma at least did tapas and she was guaranteed next life as human. We die, we don't know what life we're coming back to. When will we get human life again? We don't know. How many hundreds of years it will take, which yuga we'll be in, what social norms, which body will come in, which family. Will we have satsang? Won't we have satsang? How? Oh. Amba had such incredible single-pointedness of mind. She got to see Lord Shiva. She got Parshuram to fight, run errands for her. Like he's an avatar. What did she use it for? Why would God allow such things? There's this beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita. Ya pashyati sa pashyati. The one who sees, sees. The one who can't see, just can't. So Bhagwan looks at us. Can we see? What are we seeing? Yeah. If you can't see, you can't see it. He's not going to, he'll give you what you want. So be careful what you ask for. He'll give you what you want. Parshuram gave her choice. Tell me which king you want to marry. I'll make him marry you. What did she choose? I want to kill Bhishma. She got vision of Shiva. Like I said, Parvati ji got Shiva. Parvati did that same incredible tapas. And when Shiva appeared in front of Parvati, and he said, actually, he didn't ask her. He didn't. When he appeared in front of Parvati, he knew what she was doing tapas for. He tested her. And then he said he would marry her. And she would have, but she did tapas again. Even after getting married to Shiva, she did tapas again because she said, this is not close enough. That next time round, she became Ardhanareshwari. Half Shiva, half Parvati. They physically merge. Parvati used her tapas really well. Perfect balance. Ardhanareshwari is perfect balance between male and female. Perfect balance is so hard to achieve. With her tapas, she achieved perfect balance. First, she attained Shiva. Then she became Shiva. This is how we should use our tapas. Yeah. We put in so much effort, so much effort, so much effort. What do we accomplish with all this effort we put into? Sometimes all we accomplish is a position, sometimes money, likes on Instagram. What do we accomplish? You know, I have to also make Instagram videos, post. It takes so long, yeah. So much work. So much easier to just sit and read Mahabharata, make post, then remember what time to post it, then post it. Hey, we're doing it for Gurudev, so happily I'll do it. Well, not so happily sometimes. Sometimes I'm happily doing it, sometimes I'm cranky doing it, but we're doing it for Gurudev, so at least there's purpose. But I think about all these other people, so much effort to make all these things, post all these things, follow up, get the likes, get the followings, and what do we accomplish at the end of it all? What did Amba accomplish at the end of it all? Wasted 2 whole lifetimes. What's the probability of her being happy the next lifetime? All right. Maybe. We really hope that she purified herself of every last iota of revenge that can possibly exist in the human heart. So next lifetime, she can be born completely loving and forgiving. But that doesn't happen. To be born next lifetime forgiving, I have to forgive this lifetime. Repeatedly. I only get better at something by doing it. She got great at tapas, but the inspiration for it. So Amba was wronged. Bhishma kidnapped 3 princesses and took them. Vichitravir married 2 of them. And oh, those 2 princesses that married Vichitravir, they had a ball. Vichitravir was super Mr. Romantic. I was surprised at how much description is given in the Mahabharata of them going for walks in the sunset. Lots of pleasure, lots of indulgence. That was expressed very, very clearly. He knew how to satisfy a woman, but couldn't conceive. Yeah, I know, too many details in Mahabharata. Those details are given too. He knew what he was doing. They were very happy. But no child was conceived. So Amba had a raw deal, sure. But she, sometimes when we make it worse for ourselves. She definitely made it worse for herself. Was Bhishma right? As per the social norms of those times, yes, he could kidnap a princess. We in today's world would never agree to that. We live in a very different era. Okay. Any questions on Amba? Or Shantanu, Ganga, who else I spoke about today? Yeah. Yeah. What would happen to Shikandi after the war? Nothing, only the Pandavas are spoken about after the war. Yeah, we don't know anything about Drishtadyumna also. They would have gone back to Drupada's kingdom. Drishtadyumna probably became king. Drishtadyumna is Draupadi's brother. Yeah. Yeah. He was killed. Was he killed? Possibly. Was he killed? Maybe. I don't remember. I didn't read that bit. No, I didn't read that bit today. And I don't remember. I don't think it's mentioned. We don't hear about her after Bhishma falls on the bed of arrows. Well, he would have gone, yeah. Like I said, hopefully he started doing tapas for good reason. Nothing's mentioned actually. Focus is on the Pandavas, right? Very few people survive the Mahabharata war. Literally, you can count the number of people. 3 people on the Kaurava side survive, right? No. Yeah. And like 5 survive on the Pandava side. So chances are he died. No, no, other than the 5 Pandavas, only 5 of them survive. Satyaki, Yuyutsu, does Yuyutsu die? Maybe. Can't remember now. But hardly anyone survives the Bahad. It's like it was just massacre. So chances are he died. But I don't remember what's written. I can check. But by the time we get to the end of, I think it's going to take a while. Any other? Yeah. Why does Ganga get cursed for something she doesn't do wrong? Well, when the dupatta flew and she was exposed and he was drooling at her, she drooled back. She totally enjoyed the attention. She was quite infatuated herself. She didn't attempt to cover up. She didn't attempt to be modest. So the Rishi said, well, if this is your behavior, then go enjoy. Just don't do it in front of us. Rishis were very open-minded. You have the desire, go do. Or control. There's a lot of doing in the Mahabharata. So she did do something wrong. She didn't get cursed just like that. She allowed lust in an inappropriate environment. Lust is not criticized, but appropriate and inappropriate environments. If you read the Mahabharata, lust is not criticized. Like I said, Vichitravir is praised. He's very good. Was. No, dead. Okay, shall we conclude? Parshuram was born in Treta Yuga. He was around during the Ramayana. He's still around. No, I mean he's still around. He's a Chiranjeevi. Parshuram doesn't die. Why does Parshuram not die? Why is he a Chiranjeevi? So like I said, he's one of the avatars. And he did a lot of tapas. Why he became a Chiranjeevi? It happened in the Ramayana only, right? Why is he an avatar? Vishnu had, yeah, he was an avatar for a reason. The Kshatriyas had become corrupt. There were many kings that were selfish and adharmic at a particular era. So Parshuram was born as a Brahmana and he took up the job of killing Kshatriyas, unrighteous Kshatriyas, but then it got a little bit like a massacre. And that's why Bhishma says that line. Like you rid the earth of Kshatriyas, but you didn't meet me yet. He meant what he said. So yeah, there was a backstory of him coming as an avatar. And then he continued to live until Rama was born. So the avatars went that way, that all righteous, unrighteous kings were removed and the earth was purified of adharmic Kshatriyas. And then Ram was born as a Kshatriya to establish this new rule. And that's why Ram Raj is considered such a thing, because Rama introduced this era of dharmic ruling of kings who served as servants to the kingdom, which is why he sacrifices Sita also, right? It's like you put your kingdom first. And it was all that we get rid of this adharmic ruling. We have rulers that are selfless and disciplined and noble. And there is an interaction between Ram and Parshuram, who are both avatars. And something happens there, I think, when he becomes, gets given this Chiranjeevi. So he challenges Ram. Ram's the Kshatriya. He is vowed to kill Kshatriyas. Of course, he can't kill Ram because Ram's also an avatar. He takes out the bow of Vishnu. Parshuram takes out the bow of Vishnu. Ram puts out his hand. The bow flies into Ram's hand. And Parshuram realizes that my time is over. And so he says he will leave. But I think there was some other conversation, which I don't remember the details of. You remember?
He can't stay on the earth, so he stays on
the yeah. And once Ram's avatars leaves, he can go wherever he wants to. But so he doesn't stay while Ram is here. But the thing of being a Chiranjeevi was given by Ram to him during that exchange. He doesn't come out much. Ashwatthama doesn't come out much. Vyasa now and then. And Hanumanji all the time. Monkey. He keeps coming. Yay, thankfully. We'll conclude. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru